was thinking. To pick up the tip of the meter lines, feel inside the drawers. If we on the night can spread it out.
And believe it or not, it is episode 4 of Hawk TV. Thank you for tuning in once again. Meat Sauce, as always, is here, but this week's special guest is the great common man, Dan Cole.
Thank you very much.
They told me I couldn't get real guests on this show, but yet here you are.
First of all, it's thanks for the invitation.
Of course.
I've always been a big fan of the show, all 4 episodes.
Thank you very much.
Well, 3, actually, 2,
sounds
but this
better
is,
than-
this is your
right.
4th episode. It looks like you're going the way of Conan.
Well,
You
that's
just
what I'm trying.
You should dye your beard orange.
It's a good idea.
Or at least, orange, red,
Yeah,
or whatever, so you
right.
could be Conan. You could bounce up and
I
down.
can bounce, yeah, and I can, but yeah, I can't do comedy. Other than that, I'd be good at it, and
I
I'm
like
much
it.
shorter than him. Common, when I asked you to come on here, you said you would, and you said you would let me interview Dan Cole and not the common man, because we want to get to know the man behind the common man.
This is
Dan
one of
Cole.
those blindside shock jock
That's
interviews,
exactly
is
what
it?
it's going to be.
See,
It's
I'm
exactly.
getting blindsided. I
We
knew
have
it.
tissue around here somewhere. I'm
All
hoping
right.
that we need them. So let's start at the very beginning. Where are you from?
Detroit, Michigan. Motor City. That's where I was born.
How long did you live there?
Was not raised there. Was born there.
Okay.
We left when I was probably 3.5 years old.
Any
Shortly
memories
after
at
my
all?
sister was born. No, I have no memories of Detroit. None whatsoever. And that's probably a good thing, don't you think?
Right, and you moved to
Atlanta, Georgia.
really?
We lived in Atlanta, Georgia. My dad did not like the heat of the South, and so then we hightailed it back up to Minnesota. My mom and dad are originally from Hibbing,
Oh, okay.
Minnesota.
Right.
But when we came back, we settled into Minneapolis, St. Paul area.
And how long were you in Atlanta?
I bet 6 months
Oh,
before my
that's
dad
it.
couldn't take it.
I
Yeah, so
couldn't
I
make
was.
the heat either.
I got back to the Twin Cities when I was probably 4 years old.
Yeah, because I knew that there was obviously some Detroit involvement there because you're such a Lions fan. I didn't know if you were actually.
Roar's been restored.
The Roar has been restored, exactly right. So, so the Lion thing has always been just something that.
Well,
Or is
it
that
was
a
one of
bit?
those No, because when I was a kid, I wanted to be different, and I guess that worked.
Sure.
I guess
Sure,
I am.
sure.
And it was I just thought, well, if you're born somewhere, that's where your blood is,
Yeah.
your blood and your guts and your beer. And I thought, well, I should be a Detroit fan.
Right.
And so it was just fun being different in the neighborhood that Detroit was, the Detroit-based teams were my favorite. So I've always, if I don't live and die by it anymore, but
Right.
I still am a Motor City Kitties fan. Yeah.
How many brothers and sisters?
I have an older brother and a younger sister.
That's all.
That's
So
it. No
brothers
one
and
else.
sisters. Yeah,
No one
yeah.
else.
And you guys moved to what city when you moved here?
Well, when we first got here, I think we moved first. I think we were in Minneapolis, one of the inner ring suburbs in Minneapolis.
Right.
And then we went out to like Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, and then from there to Coon Rapids. And then I eventually ended up in Forest Lake. My mom and dad got a divorce when I was in my mid-teens. My dad went to Forest Lake. I was kind of a Hellion. Is it a rabble rouser or a rebel rouser?
Little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
So my mom said, you might want to think about moving in with your dad for a little while. Because I was kind of a handful. And then I lived with my dad in Forest Lake, and that's where I went to high school.
So, what year did you graduate from high school? Would you have graduated from high school?
Thank you.
Thank you.
77.
You would have graduated from. Okay, so
77.
when you talk about Haight-Ashbury times, you're being serious. I mean, you came through that.
I was smack
era.
dab in the. Yeah, I think I probably am. It was probably good that I actually missed the real Haight-Ashbury days.
Yeah, right.
The mid to late 60s, and I kind of caught the tail end of it because who knows what would have happened. Because I think the late to mid 70s was sort of the end of the hippie era.
Yeah.
Those of us were just trying to kind of glom onto that, hanging on to the past because we don't like the future, afraid of the future and the present and that whole thing. So I kind of caught the tail end of that whole Woodstock hippie kind of thing.
Yeah. Were you a Hellion? Were you a bad kid, or were you just fun?
Yeah,
loving?
no, I got in some trouble too. Yeah, I mean, I did some things where we were things that I'm certainly not proud of. Where we were some. I mean, we didn't murder anybody.
Yeah.
We didn't rob gas stations and pistol whip the old man or anything. But we did some petty thefts and stuff like that. Just stuff because we were crazy kids. And then I started walking the straight and narrow. Now, I still did the Haight-Ashbury days, but I finally figured out a life of crime is knowing. As I think it was Peter Falk once said in Columbo, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. And I didn't want to do any
Didn't want
time,
to do the time.
so I got out of the crime.
Right. So why'd you not finish high school?
I was in my senior year, and I was told that because I was skipping a lot of school, and I wasn't. My grades weren't very good. And to graduate, they told me I was going to have to go to summer school.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I've never been to summer school in all the time I've been going to school, which was getting less and less as every year went by.
Right.
But I thought, well, I don't want to do that. And then they said, well, then you can go into they'd started this new program at Forest Lake High called Focus, because I think they wanted you to focus. And it was with kids that were school skippers, kids that were causing trouble, and kids that were just having a tough time in school.
Yeah,
that they just weren't, their learning abilities weren't on par with their peers. And so I said, well, I'll do that if it's going to get me the extra credit. So I had to do like 3 hours of half the day mainstream, the other half in this focus thing. And I got in there, and the focus thing was, here is Dick. Dick meets Jane.
Okay.
Dick and Jane take Spot for a walk. And I said, I can't do it. So then I had an opportunity to get a job for the whopping hourly rate of $2.25 an hour.
Wow.
And I had to have the job. And I did the interview. The foreman wanted me to, he said, the job's yours. I said, can I work after school hours? He said, nope, it's a daytime job. You're doing all right. So I took the job. So I quit school
What was
for a
the job?
It was, it was the hardest job I ever had in my entire life. I worked for a company called Norcon in Forest Lake. They made all kinds of things. Motorcycle racing jerseys, hockey jerseys. They made hockey pads, elbow pads. They also made motorcycle helmets and hockey helmets. And I worked in the buffing room. We would get the helmets. They would come off a mold or something. They were injected. They would come to our plant, just the plastic shell of the motorcycle helmet.
Mm-hmm.
We had the one gal. There was a little peg on the top of the helmet that had come from the mold, and then there was what they called a potting line on the side of the helmet, very thin. She would grind that off. I would have to take that motorcycle helmet, and I would have to buff that line off so it would be completely smooth. Hardest job I ever had in my life. I used to have Popeye-like forearms. I'm not making
So
that
you
up.
did it for a while.
Oh, I did it for like 6 months, and they came up to me and said, no one's lasted as long as you except for Lois, the gal that was doing it. He said, so we're going to give you a promotion. And I became like handyman guy that just hung around, got to just do like, hey, run that stuff out to the dump. Hey, why don't you go unload that truck over there? Why don't you do that and just keep looking busy? So that's what I did. But the buffing the helmets job was the hardest thing I ever had in my life.
You come across to me as kind of a dreamer, somebody who had aspirations. Did you back then?
No.
No, you didn't have any aspirations of anything bigger than
that. It was a nightmare. No, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I really didn't. I was one of those guys that it was the old take it one day at a time.
Really?
Yeah, just to get up, and I blame Hunter S. Thompson, the late Hunter S. Thompson, for much of my troubles.
Gonzo.
Because I read Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and I said, this is the way everybody wants to live but can't live. And I thought just partying and having a good time, What was that song? I party every day and party every day, whatever it was. That's what I really thought I wanted to do. And then finally you get to a point where you go, this just isn't what life's all about. So then you try to mix the two. I'll have a job and keep partying. Then finally I just said, that's enough. I've had enough with the party scene. I kept working, thankfully.
Right. How many times in your life have you looked back and maybe it's a lot or maybe it's not at all and said, I wish I graduated high school?
Oh, yeah. I wished I talk about this with people all the time. I've even talked about it on the air where people will say, if you could do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing. And I would change a lot of things. And that's the first thing I would do. I would never start being a party guy. I wouldn't start drinking and experimenting with uppers and downers and laughers and screamers and the whole thing like that. Never would have started smoking cigarettes. I've quit now since 98.
Yeah.
But just running with the wrong people, I wished I would have said. I never did. I mean, again, do you have that tissue?
Yeah, it's here somewhere. Yeah.
Right, I think I have one. I think I have one. I don't want to go into that, but, I never got to do homecoming, the prom.
Sure.
I didn't participate in any school activities because I was an outcast, man. I had long hair. We didn't want anything to do with school, Right. And I look back on that and I say, boy, those are some of the things that you wish you could do, that you could go to Sadie Hawkins and go to the prom and go to the homecoming dance and do well in school, maybe be a part of band or be a part of, if it's not necessarily sports, maybe you're in theater or something. And I missed all that and dropped out of school. So, and then I never went to college. And so I think about that. That might have been, fun job. I mean, that doesn't guarantee you anything. But I always thought that would be nice. So I would change a lot of things. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It worked out okay for you.
It's been all right. Yeah. I mean, now, I've been walking the straight and narrow since 90. Met my lovely wife, Potato, working at the radio station in Forest Lake. And have Deuce and baby brother Peter. And, it's the old, as Mark Knopfler said, I got a daytime job. I'm doing all right. So.
Now, we'll get to all that here in the second and third segment of Hawk TV. But before we wrap up this first segment, what What was your drug of choice? What did you love? What did you like to do? What was
Oh,
fun and what was bad?
Whatever. Uppers, downers.
Really? You've done it all.
Screamers, laughers, you
I don't
name
even
it.
know what a screamer. I've never heard of a screamer.
Yeah,
Are you making that up?
we don't know what they are either. Yeah, no, yeah, I'm stealing a line from Hunter S. Thompson again from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. No, we pretty much. I'm certainly not proud of it, and I don't recommend anybody
I
do
know.
it.
But
we did whatever we could get our hands on. We
What
just thought let's push it.
Did you have a horrible experience ever? Did you ever wake up
No,
with the devil at the end of your bed?
Never did. I never had one of those. Oh man, I'm having a I'm having a flashback or I'm bumming out or anything like that. No, I mean woke up hungover a lot, wondering whiskey in your water, sugar in your tea. What are all these crazy questions you're asking me? You know? But no, I never got to that point. No.
Outside of the school thing, if you could go back and talk to the 18-year-old Dan Cole, what would you tell him?
I would say, don't be a fool, be cool, stay in school, and don't run with the wrong people. Even though those people ended up being friends of mine and still are.
Right.
I'm not blaming them. I mean, you got your own choices, but just running with a crowd. Back in our day in school, there were the jocks and the freaks. You were one or the other. I ended up being a freak. I wish I would have stayed with the jocks. Many of those jocks are still some of my best friends now. So.
We're getting to know the real common man, Dan Cole, here on Hawk TV.
Look at him.
He just
cut
cut
open
open
a
a vein.
Look at,
Absolutely.
Look at
So we're going to find out how this lost soul finds its way to radio and big time radio here in one of the biggest markets in America, and find out his secret to success. All of that and more after our first break right here on Hawk TV.
Heading up for the East Coast, Lord knows I've paid some dues getting through. Tangled up in blue.